She wore her wedding ring when she met him, but left it on my nightstand when she came home. I used to think the quiet moments were what made a marriage real. The little rituals. Brewing her coffee before she woke up, the soft sound of her bare feet against the kitchen tile, the way she hummed Billie Eilish while scrolling through emails. We were young, maybe too young when we married, but we felt older than we were. And we loved like we had something to prove. I met Lila in college. She was the one who always looked like she knew something nobody else did, almond eyes, smirking lips, forever barefoot at parties. The kind of girl people assumed would break hearts casually, but when she chose me, it felt like winning something I didn't deserve. We moved in together a month after graduation. Married by 25. First condo by 26. We didn't wait to start life. We sprinted into it. Lila said life was too short to overthink. She still said that. Even when she started coming home later. Marketing happy hour, she told me the first time she got in at midnight. She smelled like grapefruit gin and someone else's cologne. Not mine. But I didn't say anything. I kissed her forehead, tried not to inhale too deeply. A few weeks passed. Then another late night. Then 2 in 1 week. You work too hard, I told her. She shrugged, tossing her heels by the door. That's the job. I told myself I trusted her. That I was being paranoid. That she'd always been more social than me, more ambitious, more magnetic. I stayed quiet. Until I found her wedding ring. It was sitting on my nightstand one morning, next to her phone charger. She always wore it. Even in the shower. Said it made her feel safe. But there it was. Gold and silent. When I asked, she blinked like she didn't know what I meant. I must have forgotten it. I took it off while doing dishes, she said, not looking at me. Her hands were perfectly dry. I nodded. Pretended to believe her. But something had shifted. A thread had been pulled, and I couldn't stop unraveling. I started noticing details. She changed her phone password. Started getting dressed in the bathroom with the door locked. Stopped asking me to walk her to her car in the morning. She bought new lingerie but never wore it for me. And every Thursday, without fail, she stayed out late. You don't wait up for me, do you? She asked once. I lied. No. But I did. I always did. And that was the night I finally followed her. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother, not my best friend, not even my therapist, though I probably should have. Some things feel too delicate to touch with words. Like speaking them aloud might shatter them into something worse. So I just waited. Tracked her location casually over the next few weeks. We'd shared our phone locations years ago, a safety thing, after she got into a car accident in bad weather. She'd probably forgotten it was still active. Or maybe she didn't care. That Thursday, she left the apartment just after 6:15 p.m. She kissed me on the cheek, said she had a networking event downtown. I waited exactly 12 minutes, then grabbed my jacket. Her dot moved west, not downtown, but toward the outskirts, where the streets get quieter and the buildings are more industrial than commercial. She parked in front of a place called Wren and Willow, some boutique cocktail bar with string lights and garden seating. I'd never heard her mention it. Never seen a receipt. I parked across the street. Watched from inside my car. She got out wearing the same fitted navy dress she'd worn to our anniversary last year. She'd said she didn't like it anymore, said it felt too tight. Apparently not tonight. She looked beautiful. That was the worst part. She looked like the woman I fell in love with. 5 minutes later, a man arrived. Dark coat, relaxed posture, confident grin. She greeted him like she'd done it before, with a familiarity that didn't belong to strangers. They hugged. Not politely. Not professionally. His hand lingered on her lower back. Her fingers slipped into his for a moment as they walked inside together. My throat dried out. I couldn't move. Couldn't even lift my phone to take a picture. I just sat there, clutching the steering wheel like it could anchor me. I waited for 2 hours. They didn't come out. And when I finally drove home, it felt like I'd left some part of myself behind. The next morning, she was already up when I walked into the kitchen. "Hey," she said, "too bright. You slept in. Want eggs?" I stared at her. She was wearing the soft gray hoodie she always stole from my side of the closet. No makeup. Hair in a messy bun. Back to normal. "Sure," I said. I wondered if he knew she cooked breakfast for her husband the morning after. I wondered if she texted him while I was in the shower. I wondered if I could ever touch her again and not feel someone else's fingerprints. That day, I didn't follow her. Or the next. I needed time. Time to think. To feel. She'd lied. She'd planned it. She'd chosen him. But I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Because I needed to know everything first. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, my eyes wide open, my arms stiff at my sides like I was laid out in a coffin. I could hear the steady rhythm of her breathing beside me, so calm, so unbothered. Like she hadn't just come home from someone else's arms. Like the smell of his cologne hadn't followed her into the house and hung there, invisible but choking. She mumbled something in her sleep and rolled toward me. Her hand brushed my chest. I flinched. She didn't wake up. At 4:12 a.m. I slipped out of bed and walked barefoot to the kitchen. I didn't turn on the lights. I just stood by the window, arms folded, trying to think. My thoughts weren't even thoughts. More like fragments. Images. Her hand in his. That dress. That smile. The way she looked up at him like she used to look at me. I felt like I was going insane. And the worst part, I still loved her. I loved her so much it hurt to breathe. But something had snapped. Not just in her. In me. The next day, I called in sick to work. Told them I had food poisoning. Technically not a lie. My stomach was a mess. My mind worse. I spent the day searching. Emails. Cloud backups. Calendar invites. Old messages. A web of breadcrumbs she probably thought she'd erased. But she was careless. Or maybe overconfident. There were receipts from a jewelry store I didn't recognize. Uber drop-offs to neighborhoods she'd never mentioned. Restaurant bookings under a name she didn't use. One caught my eye, Emma Wilder. I stared at it. Emma Wilder was her maiden name. The name she'd stopped using the day we got married. So why was she using it again? I dug deeper. Into her Instagram drafts. Into the photo vault on her phone. Into that weird app she downloaded last month, the one disguised as a calculator. There they were. Pictures. Of him. Mostly candid. Mostly cropped. His hand. His shoulder. A blurred mirror reflection of her sitting on a hotel bed in lingerie I'd never seen. And one photo that gutted me. Them. Together. His arms around her. Her chin tilted up, eyes closed, lips almost touching his. She was wearing her wedding ring. I dropped the phone. I just let it fall on the floor. A sound escaped my chest, not a sob, not a scream. Something deeper. Something raw. It echoed in the silence. That evening, she came home humming. "You're quiet," she said, setting down her bag. I looked at her and didn't speak. She walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of wine like nothing was wrong. "Rough day." I nodded. "Want to talk about it?" God, the nerve. I wanted to scream at her right then. I wanted to throw her phone on the table, show her the pictures, the bookings, the fake names, the hotel rooms. I wanted to watch her face twist in guilt, in fear, in shame. But I didn't. Instead, I studied her. Her hair pulled back in that lazy bun. The way her collarbone caught the last of the daylight. Her gold necklace, the one I bought her 3 Christmases ago. She looked like my wife. But she wasn't. Not anymore. So I smiled. Not tonight, I said. I just need a good night's sleep. Because the truth was, I wasn't ready for the confrontation. Not yet. I needed one more piece. One final thing. Proof of who he was. And once I had it, then I'd decide who I was going to be. The next day, I followed her. But not like before, not in my car, not sitting across the street like a ghost in my own life. This time, I dressed the part. Khakis. A button-down. The kind of outfit that said, I'm harmless. I'm just another husband running errands. She left at 6:03 p.m., perfume trailing her in the doorway like a whispered confession. I waited 5 minutes. Then I took an Uber, not my car, not anything traceable. The driver didn't ask questions. I just gave him the name of the place she'd gone to 2 Thursdays ago. Wren and Willow. She wasn't there. But she was nearby. I spotted her walking down the block, that confident glide, shoulders back, lips painted the same wine-red shade she used to save for our anniversaries. She entered a place called the Selby. Not a restaurant. A private members' lounge. The kind of place with no sign on the door, just a single lantern and a security camera tucked into brick. She didn't even knock. She just typed in a code and walked in. I stood across the street, stunned. She had a code. It wasn't casual. Wasn't spontaneous. It was rehearsed. Regular. There were tinted windows, no way to see inside. So I waited. I stood there until my legs ached. At 8:14 p.m. they came out. He walked beside her. Tall. Mid-30s. Trim beard. Expensive jacket, probably tailored. His hand brushed her waist like he'd done it 100 times. She didn't flinch. They stood there talking for a moment. Laughing. Then he kissed her. Right there on the sidewalk. Casual. Familiar. Like no one in the world could possibly care. And she kissed him back. I didn't look away. Not this time. I needed to burn it into my memory. Because this was the man. The one who had crawled into my life like mold in the walls, slow and silent and rotting everything I built. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. 2, actually. One of them kissing. One of her face right after, smiling. I went home before she did. She came in just before 11, kicked off her shoes, and walked straight to the bathroom. Humming. Always humming. I stayed in the living room, staring at my phone, the images still open. When she came out, I asked, "Did you have fun tonight?" She froze. Just a beat too long. Then smiled. Yeah. Why? Just wondering. She sat next to me, close enough that I could smell her shampoo. Something floral. Something expensive. Something new. You okay? She asked. Yeah. Just tired. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You've been off lately. I was starting to think you didn't want me anymore. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know what I wanted. Not yet. But the next day, I started digging into him. Reverse image search didn't work. But I had the photo. I had a face. And I had time. I went through every tagged photo on her company's social media. Every office party. Every gala. Every seminar. It took hours, but eventually, there he was. Standing next to her at a New Year's event. Arm around her shoulder. Name tag half visible. I zoomed in. Aaron Wexler. Executive consultant. That was all I needed. LinkedIn filled in the rest. Divorced. No kids. Traveled often. Mostly New York and LA, occasionally Chicago, where we lived. I even found his speaking engagements. Videos of him talking about leadership and integrity. It made me want to laugh. But I didn't laugh. I watched them. All of them. Studied his voice. His body language. The way he moved, how he charmed the room. He was good. I could see why she'd fallen for it. But she didn't fall. She chose. And now it was my turn. I printed the photos. Put them in a plain white envelope. And slipped it into her work bag the next morning. No note. No accusation. Just silence. Because sometimes silence is louder than anything you can scream. She didn't mention the envelope. Not that day. Not the next. Not even over the weekend, when we drove out to visit her sister's kids and pretended we were the same couple we'd always been. She smiled more than usual. Laughed louder. Touched my hand in public. It was all performance. I knew it. And I think, somewhere deep inside, she did too. Sunday night, while she was brushing her teeth, I watched her from the doorway. She caught my eyes in the mirror and smiled with foam on her lips. "What?" she asked. I shook my head. "Nothing." Because what do you say to someone who's holding a secret in the same mouth they kiss you with? I started making plans. Real plans. There's a moment in betrayal where grief turns to strategy. I hit that moment on Monday morning, around 9:13 a.m., while staring at my second cup of black coffee. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to outthink her. The first step, get the full picture. I called in a favor from a friend who owed me, a guy from college who now worked in digital forensics. "I need you to recover deleted messages," I said. "From my wife's old iPad." He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Drop it off." While he worked on that, I started documenting everything: screenshots, dates, hotel bookings, timestamps from photos. I built a timeline. Not just of her affair, but of our lives in parallel. What I was doing the nights she disappeared. The birthdays she skipped. The dinners she lied about. It was like watching my own life flicker and fade and rewind. The final crack came from the iPad. My friend emailed me a zip folder. Inside were texts. Hundreds of them. Some flirtatious. Some vulgar. All undeniable. There was a message that hit me harder than the rest. "When I'm with him, I feel like a wife. But when I'm with you, I finally feel like me." I read it 4 times. 5. Then I closed the laptop. That night, she curled up next to me in bed like nothing had changed. Her hand on my chest, her lips against my neck. "I love you," she whispered. I said it back. Because the moment wasn't right yet. But it was close. The next day, I scheduled dinner at her favorite rooftop restaurant, the one with the skyline view and overpriced cocktails. She loved the way the city looked from up there. Said it made her feel like everything was possible. I got there early. Chose a corner table. Ordered for both of us. She arrived 10 minutes late, wearing the blue silk dress I'd always loved. The one she used to wear for me. She sat down, kissed my cheek. "This is a surprise," she said, beaming. "What's the occasion?" "You'll see," I said. Dinner was soft, slow. She talked about work. I nodded. I asked about her sister. She lit up with stories. Then dessert came. I slid a small black box across the table. Her eyes widened. What is this? Open it. Inside wasn't jewelry. It was a flash drive. Labeled, Truth. She blinked. Looked up at me. What's this supposed to mean? Take it home. Watch it. Then decide who you want to be tomorrow. She didn't speak. Not for a long time. Just stared. Her smile was gone. I paid the bill. We left in silence. And that silence, it was the most honest thing we'd shared in months. She didn't come to bed that night. I heard the front door open around midnight, then close again softly. No slamming. No storming. Just, quiet. Like she didn't want to wake the man she used to love. In the morning, her side of the bed was untouched. The flash drive was gone. I brewed coffee like always. Ate toast I couldn't taste. Watched the sunlight crawl slowly across the living room floor like time had slowed down just for me. At 9:23 a.m. I got a text. Lila, we need to talk. I didn't reply. At 10:02, another one. Lila, I watched it. Please let me explain. Still, I said nothing. By noon, she came home. Her eyes were red. Her hair pulled back like she hadn't touched it since last night. No makeup. No shield. She stood in the doorway, just watching me. I didn't look up from my laptop. You set me up, she said finally, voice raw. No, I said. You did that yourself. I just hit play. She took a step forward, then stopped. I didn't want it to go this far. I closed the laptop. You didn't want to get caught. That's not the same thing. She flinched. Sat down across from me, like this was a business meeting. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Every Thursday night. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Silence again. That heavy, aching kind. The kind that builds walls. How long? I asked. She stared at her hands. 7 months. Maybe 8. I nodded slowly. And it's not the first time, is it? Her head snapped up. What? You've done this before. Maybe not physically. But emotionally. You checked out of this marriage a long time ago. She didn't deny it. Was it worth it? I asked. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know. That's not a no. Her voice cracked. I was lonely. You were always working. You stopped looking at me. So you found someone who did. She nodded. And what now? I asked. You watched the flash drive. You saw everything. What do you want from me now? She looked desperate. A chance. A conversation. Something real. You had real. You replaced it with secret passwords and hotel rooms. I was stupid. You were deliberate. We sat there for what felt like years. Then she reached into her bag and placed something on the table. Her wedding ring. I took it off before meeting him. Always. Except once. The day you followed me. I didn't know. I just forgot. That's the one thing I'll never forget. She wiped her eyes. So what happens now? I looked at the ring. Then at her. I don't know. But I'm not rushing forgiveness. Do you still love me? I didn't answer. Because part of me still did. But the other part, the part that had sat in that car, watched her kiss him, listened to her lie over and over, that part had gone quiet. Too quiet to answer. And maybe that silence was my answer after all. The days after that were strange. She didn't leave. I half expected her to pack a bag, storm out, slam the door, something loud, something dramatic. But she didn't. She stayed. She moved through the apartment like a guest in her own life. Quiet. Careful. Folding laundry that wasn't hers. Cooking dinner but barely eating. We spoke only when necessary. Simple things. There's mail on the counter. Your mom called. I'll pick up groceries. That was it. The conversations we used to have, about movies, childhood memories, dreams, were dead. Buried beneath secrets and silence. But she stayed. Sometimes I caught her looking at me like she wanted to speak. Like she had rehearsed something in her head 100 times. But every time, she swallowed it. And I didn't ask. One night, I came home late from work. She was on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea. The city lights glowed behind her like a painting. Want to sit? She asked. I hesitated. Then sat down beside her. We didn't speak for a while. Finally, she said, I told him it was over. I didn't respond. He didn't take it well. Said I was running away from what made me happy. I stared at the skyline. Were you? She didn't answer. You know, I said slowly, I used to imagine growing old with you. She turned to look at me, eyes glistening. Me too. That version of us, the one that trusted each other, I don't think they exist anymore. She nodded. I know. The blanket slipped off her shoulder. I didn't reach to fix it. So what are we doing? I asked. Trying to see if there's anything left. That was the most honest thing either of us had said in weeks. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. No note. No message. But her ring was back on the nightstand. Right where it had been the first time everything cracked. Only now, it wasn't a symbol of forgetting. It was a surrender. Or maybe a goodbye. I went about my day like everything was normal, only it wasn't. The apartment felt too quiet. Her presence too absent. Around sunset, I walked into the bedroom and opened the drawer where she kept her journals. They were gone. Not all of them. Just the recent ones. She had taken the version of herself I no longer knew, and left the rest behind. That night, I sat on the edge of our bed and replayed everything. The ring. The dress. The kiss. The silence. And then I did something I hadn't done since this all started. I cried. Not out of rage. Not even out of grief. But because I finally understood what had happened to us. We'd built something real. And then we buried it alive. 2 days passed. Then 3. I didn't text her. She didn't call. The apartment stayed quiet, suspended in the kind of limbo that hurts more than any goodbye. On the 4th day, I found her toothbrush missing. Her side of the closet half empty. Drawers neat, but lighter. She hadn't stormed out. She'd slipped away, quietly, respectfully, like she didn't want to break anything else on her way out the door. No note. Just absence. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the space where she used to sleep. There was still an indent in the pillow. Still the faintest trace of her perfume on the sheets. She was gone. And I didn't stop her. I didn't chase. Didn't beg. Didn't call out into the void hoping she'd echo back. I just let the silence settle. And for the first time, it didn't feel like defeat. It felt like clarity. That evening, I poured a glass of whiskey, opened the balcony doors, and let the city in. Cars below. Wind against brick. A world that kept spinning, even as mine had stopped. She wasn't coming back. But that didn't mean the story was over. A week later, I saw her. Not in person. Online. A tagged photo at some fundraiser. Smiling, poised. Alone. She looked different. Not lighter. Not happier. Just different. Like a version of herself I never got to know. And beside her name, something else. Back to her maiden name. Just like that, she'd erased the last line that tied us together. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not out of pain, not anymore. But curiosity. Wondering how many lives one person can live before they finally feel like themselves. Later that night, I opened the envelope. The one she left in my desk drawer. I hadn't noticed it until that morning. Inside, a single page. Handwritten. You didn't lose me. I lost myself. And now I have to find out who I really am, without lies, without roles, without you. Thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to love back. I hope someday you'll forgive me. But even if you don't, I'll still remember the way you made me feel safe. No signature. Just a ring taped to the bottom. Our wedding ring. I closed the envelope and put it away. Not in the trash. Not in the fire. But in a box, on a shelf, where it couldn't hurt me, but I wouldn't forget. And then I did something small. Something quiet. I changed the sheets. Not because I had to. But because I was ready. Some stories don't end with a slam of the door or a final goodbye. Some just fade. Weeks passed. Then a month. I fell into a rhythm, not peace, not joy, but something solid. I got up. I worked. I took walks alone. The apartment slowly became mine again. The echo of her laughter in the hallway dulled. The empty chair at the table stopped feeling so loud. And yet, some nights, I still reached for her in my sleep. Old habits die in whispers. One afternoon, I ran into her sister at a bookstore. We locked eyes across the aisle. For a second, I saw hesitation, then recognition. You look, well, she said. I'm trying. She nodded. Picked up a novel. She talks about you. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah. She's not okay. But she's trying too. That night, I thought about calling her. Not to rekindle anything. Just to say something. I even typed her number. My thumb hovered over the call button. But I didn't press it. Because the truth was, closure doesn't always come from the person who hurt you. Sometimes, you build it yourself. Brick by brick. Memory by memory. I started going to therapy. I started writing again. I started seeing friends I'd neglected when I was too busy being the husband I thought she wanted. And one morning, I woke up and realized something strange. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. The version I created in my head, the one who would never lie, never stray, never forget how much she was loved. That woman never really existed. She was a story I told myself. And now, I was learning to tell a new one. About a man who lost everything he thought was real, and somehow found himself in the wreckage. A better version. A quieter one. A man who knew, finally, that sometimes love doesn't die. It just stops being the place you live. And becomes the place you left.